boiled yam with stewed pork. Everything that's happened over there, but hey, I'm going on talking now, alright? I hope you guys give this one a try. This one here, yo, pure niceness, man. I've got my pork all chopped up into maybe 3/4 inch pieces. It's been washed with the juice of 1 lime. Yeah, the other piece is in the rubbish right now. And cool water, I drained it. And you know, the piece of pork is a very cheap piece of pork, but some parts are very lean, as you can see. And then what I like a bit of the skin and the fat. And luckily, this piece of meat that I got, this is the thickest piece of fat you will see on there. So it's about 50-50 lean fat. It is not something we're going to eat every day, maybe once every couple of months or something, because it definitely is quite a bit of fat in there. So be mindful of that. Cut it up in about 3/4 inch pieces. It's very important that the sizes are all the same. We're gonna go in with sea salt, and I just cook with sea salt. I do everything with sea salt. If regular salt is all you have, by all means use that regular salt. And we're gonna allow it to cook until it's pork tender. And that fat and that skin, the fat is gonna render down, and that is where the unhealthy part of this dish comes in. And that skin is gonna go so nice and tender. It's gonna melt in your mouth. I'm telling you, Jed, it's gonna melt in your mouth. So black pepper, I like a little Worcestershire sauce in there. And I also I am from Trinidad and Tobago, so the Angostura, boom bam, you hit them a few little squirts of that Angostura in there. Tomato, just a chopped up tomato. Onion, a small onion, just diced up, nothing too big. And we've got here a Scotch bonnet pepper, seeds and everything. If you don't want it spicy, by all means, keep that out. The other thing is, if you don't have access to Scotch bonnet pepper, you can use habanero, you can use whatever you have. Caribbean green seasoning. And Caribbean green seasoning, if you're new to Caribbean cooking, is basically a blend or a puree of all the herbs we like using in our dishes, along with garlic and seasoning peppers and all that. But that is the sort of seasoning, the sort of marinade for everything. Then it's just a matter of giving everything a good mix, and you're going to stick this in the fridge and let it marinate for a couple hours. Overnight would be best, but a couple of hours will give you the results that you could boast about. Got a nice big pot, something with a lid, and it's on a high flame. I'm going to go in with a tablespoon of olive oil. Use whatever oil you like using. I'm just going to hit that a little, swish around in there. And because that pot was already hot, the browning sort of process, the stew process, means golden brown sugar, a tablespoon and a half of that. And if you've watched my other videos, or if you've seen any sort of content I create called stew, this is the stewing process. And you know, my Jamaican brothers and sisters, they call it brown stew. Most of the other Caribbean, we just call it stew, because we melt the sugar, then it's going to go frothy, and then it's going to go amber. Once it becomes amber in color, and it's important that your pot is dry, the spoon that you're using is dry, because you don't want to add water. It's pretty much a caramelized sort of way of caramelizing the sugar. So it's important everything is dry. What I'd recommend doing is using a spoon with a long handle, so you're away from the pot as you add that seasoned pork to there. It will go frothy, then it will go amber in color, and I like moving it around in the pot simply because I know there are hot spots on my stove. So I just want to make sure it doesn't go black. If it goes beyond amber, if it goes black, stop, cool it down completely, wash it, and start back. Black means bitter tasting and not stew. Yes, your kitchen will go smoky. There's no two ways about it. Now, as you can see, we've got that froth happening. We see the amber color that we're looking for. I'm just going to move it around just a little bit more. Just like so. We've got that beautiful amber color. Depending on the lighting, I don't know how dark you guys are seeing it, but it is not black. Remember, if it goes black, shut down the stove and start over. Now, here's where we're going to start adding the seasoned pork. Take it out about 20 minutes or so before you add it to the pot, so it sort of comes up to room temperature. And as I add it to the pot, I'm gonna keep stirring just to sort of coat all the pieces of pork with that nice browning that we created there. I'm gonna add all the rest of it. And we're gonna add about 4 cups of water in the same bowl where we marinated the pork in, because later on we're gonna use that liquid to braise everything. Because I want it pork tender, I want all of that fat to render down, I want the skin to go nice and tender. I'm telling you, this here is packing a lot of flavor, but it will take time. Please do not tell me anything about pressure cooker. No, stop. If you also wanted later on when I'm adding that water, if you wanted to add 1 cup of coconut milk, I'm telling you, boy, that coconut milk brings niceness to the game. Anyhow, I'm going to bring that up to a boil. I'm going to turn down the heat to low. I'm going to put the lid on there and let that generate its own liquid and let it cook for about 10-15 minutes or so. You'll see how much liquid it sprouted on its own there. So we're going to hit that a quick little stir. And we're going to crank up the heat now. It's been 10 minutes. We're going to crank up the heat now and burn off all that liquid. And burning off that liquid, we will intensify the color and the flavor of the pork before we start braising. The braising is just to make it nice and tender. As that liquid burns off there, I'm going to hit him another quick stir. And I've got a pimento pepper. These are the last pimento peppers from the garden. No flavor, but tons of, no heat, but a ton of flavor. And that is why we call it seasoning peppers in the Caribbean. Another one, this is just a green one. Pali is just being himself there. Oh, piece of pepper went flying. And the other thing I like doing, piece of ginger. And we're gonna grate that ginger in there. That ginger flavor is just supreme. I'm telling you, boy. Get all that ginger in there. It will take about 5 or 6 minutes to burn off all that liquid, but what you'll start seeing at the bottom of the pot is the oils that we started off with. And when I say oils, one, the olive oil that we started off with, and some of the pork pieces of fat is starting to already render down. I'm just going to give that 1 more minute, and then we're going to add the braising liquid, which is the water, to the pot. Remember I said if you wanted to add some coconut milk? Yeah, yes, go ahead. Final stir, and then we're going to start adding all that liquid in there. With our heat still on high, we're going to bring that up to a boil. Then we're going to reduce it to a simmer. We're going to put the lid on and let that braise away for about an hour and a half. We want this really, really tender. It's come up to a vigorous boil. We're going to turn the heat down to a simmer. We're going to put the lid on and we're going to crack it slightly ajar. It's been going on that sort of bubble that you're seeing there for about 50 minutes, 50, since we added the water. I am going to continue cooking this down because I want this even more tender, but I'm just going to switch burners and I'm going to show you all how to prepare and boil that yam. Yeah, if you needed more water, feel free to add more water if you find that the water level is going down. I did add an extra cup of water in there, but lid back on, slightly ajar, and we're gonna let that keep going. Lately I haven't been able to source decent yam. This is the best that I'm getting at the different West Indian and Asian stores. This is the sort of stem part here, and what I would recommend doing, and I used to see my mom do this, were this freshly harvested out of the ground, you would need to take some vegetable oil and coat your hands, because it will give off a sort of a slime, and it possibly could cause you to a skin irritation and cause it to itch. So you can see it was already starting to go bad, but we cut off the top there. It isn't the best looking yam, and again, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in North America or wherever you call sweet potato yam, see, this is what I'm talking about here. It's always like hit or miss. This is what we in the Caribbean call yam, not the sweet potato that you guys sort of renamed and calling yam, you know. But anyhow, you're using a paring knife and you're gonna go below the skin, the thickness of the skin basically, and peel. Now, as I said, it's not the best quality, so I'm just gonna cut the parts off like this that the sort of discoloration happening there. Cut that out as well, here as well, here as well, and a little bit there. I'm going to try to keep the pieces the same size. So this is all ready. I have a bowl with cool water sitting on the side there, and again I'm going to show you what I did using the paring knife. And the bowl with the water is just so that it doesn't discolor while we're prepping all the pieces here. Man, this was expensive too. This was like about, I don't know, $3 a pound Canadian or something. You do the currency conversion, and I'm telling you, it was expensive to be wasting so much. But it is, you know, this is it is one of my favorite meals to eat, and you know, it is something I grew up eating simply because my brother and I, anything my dad enjoyed eating, mommy would make it, and my brother and I, our dad is our hero, man. Anything he did, we wanted to sort of copy. So this became one of our favorite meals, and the yam would come straight from the garden in the backyard, or not too far from the house. We had another garden, a piece of land there that my dad would plant stuff. So yeah, boiled yam with stewed pork. Things self. I'm just gonna slice that and into the cool water. And this is the bowl where I had it soaking in the cool water. I'm just rinsing it out. Let's give it a good little wash down, like so. And then I'm gonna top it up, cover it with water, and then we're gonna bring it to a boil, and we're gonna add salt and real nice thing. And there we go. We're just gonna tuck it down, put it on a high flame, bring it up to a boil. Now once it comes up to a boil, we're gonna turn it down the heat, so it's not vigorous, but it's more of a rolling boil, so we don't, the stove is already a mess. This is starch. That's going to cause some more problems if it boils over, you know. And you can see as it starts coming up to a boil, you're going to get all of that froth, that sort of foamy stuff. I'm just going to skim that down the sink. Remember to salt the water at this point. I've already salted my water, and I'm going to turn my heat down to a rolling boil. No, you're not seeing things. I switched back the pots. I have better angles over here, so I want to show you where we at with the pork. So if you wanted, this is nice and tender. It's been an hour and 25 minutes since we added the water in here. It's been braising down, depending on the age of the pig, and you wouldn't know, but it can take longer to really get nice and tender as I want it to be. You have a couple things here you can do. One, you can cut off the stove because you got a nice thick gravy. And before you do that, taste it for salt, adjust the salt. The other thing you can do, in my case here, and I'm talking about the dish mom would make for my dad, myself, and my brother, all, or if not most of that liquid is going to what she called fry down. And by cooking down all of that, it intensifies the flavor. So what I'm going to do is crank up the heat and sort of burn off most of that liquid there. I really want that taste of home, that taste, takes me back to being a kid on the island. But anyhow, we're burning off that now. All that liquid is burnt off now. So what I like doing at this point here is making it rain scallions. You can use shadowbenny, you can use parsley, but I find that green onion, that scallion there, that thing will just brighten things up. The thing about the yam, it's all about timing. So we're gonna grab a piece here and I'll show you how we're gonna test it. We're gonna put a knife straight through it, no resistance, so we know that is fully cooked. The unfortunate thing is some pieces are overcooked. That we can't control simply because there were quite a number of old pieces of yam in there and I didn't know how long one's going to take or the other. You're going to drain it now completely, and ladies and gentlemen, you're going to put it together. This is your start. So you would treat the yam as you would rice or potato or roti or whatever, and you would top it with that stewed pork. It's all drained now, so you just allow it to cool down for a couple of minutes. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them bots will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. I'm going on talking. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. Boiled yam with stewed pork. Everything that's happened over there, but hey, I'm going on talking now, alright? I hope you guys give this one a try. This one here, yo, pure niceness, man, takes me back many years ago, yeah? What to cook